Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Iolande Argent Show. I'm your host, Iolande Argent, and joining me on this edition coming up will be author and entrepreneur Kim McLaughlin. She's coming up in just a few moments, so keep it here. Ta-da. Okay, welcome to the Iolande Argent Show. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Okay, great. And welcome to everyone who's going to tune into this edition of the Iolande Argent Show. And with me today is my guest, Kim McLaughlin, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, everyone. I am Kim McLaughlin. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm also a motivational coach, and I work with people who struggle with binge eating, emotional eating, and any kind of overeating, and I help them move from a place of struggle to a place of peace with food. And I'm really glad to talk to you all about that today.
Okay. So how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this, I've been focusing on binge eating, emotional eating for about 6 years. So as my work, I've been doing that. So I've done a lot of studying, a lot of talking with people, and also my personal kind of path has been along this line too.
And was that what you first focused on when you started your practice, or did you kind of roll into?
You know what? I pivoted when I was younger. I got my master's degree in clinical psychology, and I got licensed, and I actually spent a lot of my career working with emotionally disturbed teenagers and children in high-level out-of-home placement. So that was really my focus for a lot of years, and I pivoted from that, and then worked with homeless, mentally ill families and adults, and that was I had like a history of lots of really rewarding, interesting jobs that I did, and then I had my daughter and decided that I wanted to go into having my own business. And I decided in doing my own business, I wanted to have a focus and realize that what I realized was that there were so many people suffering with binge eating and emotional eating that I decided that I would really focus my attention, my acts of service, and my learning to that population, because it's such an underserved, appreciated people. And so I wanted to be one of the ones to help.
Well, that's good. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's underserved, because the media makes a really big issue out of it, because that's how they drive sales for their latest diet fad.
I would agree with you. It's like, actually, you are correct. It is served in a way in terms of whatever the latest fad is, the diet, and the focus on losing weight. And you make a really good point. It's actually overserved in terms of dieting and all the diet mindset and diet products and
Right.
diet solutions. And what I'm looking at is solutions that are nurturing to yourself rather than using those products to take care of it.
Yeah.
So what we
most
find is that diets don't work.
Well, yeah, and if they get on the diet and they don't work, and you see that cycle kick in, they just spiral right back to that pattern of behavior.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And what happens is the cycle then includes the dieting, the restricting, then the binging, and then the shame. And the shame then leads you right back into that cycle again. And what we know is that when you're on that cycle, that circular motion, you got to pull off of it. And what I found is that the best way to pull out of it is to pull out of that diet mindset and that restriction, and then put food in its proper place as nourishment, and manage feelings and your life in a different way rather than using food to manage it. And it's much easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah, of course it is. But most people end up with their cycle. Are you finding that they end up with it based on environmental conditioning? Because you didn't come into the world with that, that mindset.
You are correct. What I tell people often is look back at toddlers. Any toddler that you've had, any little kid that had, I mean, some little kids have eating issues, but 99% of the time they don't. And they will eat when they're hungry and they'll stop when they're full. And you cannot make them overeat. It's impossible. It's impossible. And what we find is that there's a certain point where you go to the other side where food then becomes that emotional nurturing, and you either can't tell when you're hungry, can't tell when you're full, and or can't stop overeating. And that trigger that we have, that natural trigger that we were born with, goes away.
Yeah.
Or has gone away, I should say. It's gone away, but it's not lost. It's just
Right.
getting back to it.
Right. 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 So you have a book that you've written on this subject.
I do. It's a book. It's called, here it is. I put it out. I brought it up.
Okay.
Discover Your Inspiration. It's 19 real stories from 19 real people. So it's a compilation book, and my story is in it. And my story is called Diet is a 4-letter word. And and it's the first time I've written my personal story of dieting and how my dieting process happened, how gaining weight happened, the dieting, and then also my process in terms of getting off that diet roller coaster. And so it's my really personal story. So I feel really excited to share it with people, because I didn't hold anything back. I just kind of told everybody. But also, it's not just a personal story. There's also things to do. Like, there are takeaways that you can actually, once you're done and you read, it's like, okay, these are these action items. These are the things I can do for other people to get off that diet roller coaster.
Okay, good. And do you mind sharing some of your insight as to what you got, how you found out that, or how you should have, say, got on that roller coaster in the first place?
How I got on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What happened for me was when I was a child, 7 or 8, my parents got a divorce. And what I talk about in the book is that you can clearly see from pictures from those younger ages to the 8, 9, 10 age, there was a significant weight change. It's one of those situations where the pictures can't lie. And I clearly was gaining weight, but also more than just being able to see it in the pictures. I remember being obsessed with food. I remember, since my parents were divorced, we lived with my mom, and I remember afternoons putting very interesting combinations of food together because I was alone, and and it's really my mom did nothing wrong, that she did everything right. We just didn't, what you know. And I just know I can look back and notice how obsessed I was with eating a lot and sneaking food and wondering when I was going to have my next meal. And it was an obsession. And so what happened was I was introduced to dieting in my teen years, which happens to a lot of people. And one of what we know now is that if you have any kind of predisposition towards overeating, binge eating, emotional eating, or even any other kind of eating disorders, anorexia or bulimia, what we know is that putting somebody on a diet at the teenagers is one of the worst things you can do, because you're basically learning that I can override my body's natural signals. And what we really advocate now for teenagers is not dieting, but looking at finding ways to look at food in a way as nourishment for our bodies, that rather than nurturing our soul. And so what happened for me, just like lots of other people who go on diets as a teen, I just thought that's the only way you can manage food, and manage my weight, is by being on a diet. So it went on for years and years. I tried lots of different diets, and just like most everybody listening, it's like there was one after the other. And what happened is I never thought that maybe the diet was the problem.
Right.
I always thought I was the problem. It was just me because I couldn't do it right. It was something wrong with me. And there was a moment where I reread some work by Janine Roth, who I love, who really talks about putting food in its proper place as nourishment. And she really spoke to me. And I decided then that I was going to get off that diet roller coaster myself. And also I decided then that I was going to help other people do the same thing. And so that was my progress. I haven't been on a diet it's been years and years, well, 6 years plus. And it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's one of the most satisfying things I've ever done.
That's true. And it always rolls back to you making yourself feel like a failure, especially if diets don't work. But the bottom line is diets never work to begin with. you know?
If they
Um,
would, everybody would be doing it and we'd all be done.
yeah, well, that's the problem. Everybody has tried them, and you just sort of look, and then you have the people who are like, no, you just got to go and overwork out. But the bottom line is, because some people are also prone to be larger than others naturally. And if you mess with that, you're going to cause yourself to balloon up to a size that you normally wouldn't have been otherwise. But as you
Yes.
said, you've messed with your body, and now your body will backlash against that.
I always tell people when they start, this process is also called intuitive eating. So I help people focus on getting back to intuitively listening to their body, just like they did when they were toddlers, to eat in a way that serves their body. And when you've been on every diet, you don't know how to do that. So that takes some time. And what I tell people is that I don't know if you're going to lose weight. I don't know let's get off the number idea of it being a certain number, because we don't know where your body's is going to naturally lie. And it's really just about what's healthy and what's comfortable. And what can happen is that people assume that if you're larger than what people think is a normal size, which is very, very, very relative, like everybody's idea of it is different, but that there's this assumption that if you're larger than what society says, that you're unhealthy. And that's just not true.
Right.
That's just not true. You cannot assume by somebody's size that they're unhealthy. And I think that's a disservice to people, because then they think, well, I have to be smaller to be healthy. Not necessarily so. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a dietitian, but all my blood panels and everything, my heart's all good. And it's really just about being at a size that you feel comfortable with, that you can do the things you want to do throughout the day. That's what I think.
Right, right. No, and then it also boils back to, again, other trends. You have the doctors who actually do the research, and the nutritionalists who have been saying for years, this is not what we've been telling people. But then you have the ones that, of course, are going to, say exactly what they need to say to be a part of the trend because it makes them money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like, especially if you're a certain ethnicity, immediately you're diabetic, immediately.
Mm.
And you're just like, really? No, I'm not diabetic. And I remember I had to go in, and you'll love this. I went in for a rash on my hand
Yes.
that wouldn't heal. And so they immediately thought, oh, might be diabetic. Yeah, right. No, it's not diabetic. I had actually I had a case of athlete's foot. Well, what people don't realize is that that's transferable. It doesn't just stay on your feet. The same bacteria that gives you athlete's foot, as ladies, also gives you yeast infection. It also gives you ringworm. It gives you the canker sore. It just goes around. It just moves around the body. Well, I had gotten some of the bacteria had gotten on my hand in an open sore. Well, we go in there and automatically, let's do the diabetic test. Yeah, let's do that. And they're like, you're nowhere near being diabetic. No kidding. I told you that when I came in. They're like, you're also nowhere near being hypoglycemic. Again, we told you this. Stop, and then right then and there, it's like, can you just treat this, find out what this is, instead of trying to pretend that, you've put everybody in this cookie cutter idea, because
Right.
literally it sends other people into shock when they're like, but wait, you don't fit the stereotype. You're the ones who created that stereotype. Nobody told you everybody fit that in the
Yes.
first place.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's part of the stigma, is that there's an assumption that if you're not this size
Yeah.
or number on the scale that meets whatever standard, that whole BMI thing,
Hmm.
that if you don't fit that, then there's obviously something wrong with you. And we should assume that there's something wrong with you. And like you said, it's like, it's just not necessarily so. Like we don't need to stigmatize everybody. It's like, I have a rash on my hand, people. Let's take care of that.
Yeah. Pay attention to that. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. It was funny, but eventually it went away. So yes, the rash went away. Um, but it was hysterically funny watching people, and it was more like watching their reaction to it, because literally they were in shock. Yeah, yeah. Here's this big black woman who comes in. No, I'm not diabetic, and no, I'm not hypoglycemic. And a lot of my weight changes every time I get stressed. And that's another thing that happens. People don't realize that your body is in fight or flight mode. If you do something where you are constantly under stress, you don't have to eat a thing out of the ordinary and you're going to gain weight.
Mhm.
Your body's
Yes.
preparing to fight. And if there's no
Yes.
fight other than, verbal, yeah, you're just kind of at a disservice, because that mass doesn't go anyplace. It stays with you. Unless, of course, you can go out and pick a fight with somebody, then, you can go to jail. But, whatever. It's just how you look at it.
You're absolutely right. And that's why focusing on the emotional side of emotional eating, and what are the feelings that are leading towards eating, or what are the feelings that are bothering you, and let's work on that. Let's nurture ourselves. And I can tell you that that's a primary focus of everybody that I talk to. Is I'll always ask them, I'll say, and so tell me about your self-care. And they'll say, huh? What is that? And I'll even ask them, I said, well, what did you used to do for self-care? And they go, huh? What is that? So there's really this disconnect, especially among women, very professional women who are out there doing things. There is really this mindset of not taking care of ourselves. And that's one of my big charges that I have, is how are you going to take care of yourself? What are you going to do to feel better, to feel more joy, to feel more peace, to feel just good in your body? Because like you said, the stress holds on weight and increases weight. We know this. So then if that's what happens, let's look at lessening the stress, seeing what we can do to live our lives differently. And it takes work, and it takes time. And like you said, you said something about it, it kind of cycles in and out. Absolutely. It's not the straight up thing. It kind of goes up and down and up and down. And what I find is that it can be an opportunity to recalibrate with the idea of, how can I take care of myself? How can I take care of myself?
Right, right. And so what are some of the, I don't know, what are some of the signs? Can you give people some little helpful hints that they may want to pay attention to start thinking, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong?
Well, yeah, the things to start thinking about is, like, are you on a diet? And have you been on a lot of diets? And every time, has it happened where you diet, you lose weight, and then you gain weight, and you're on that cycle of going round and around, diet, lose weight, then gain weight? And if that's happening for you, if that's happening for anybody listening, I would really wonder if diets are really working for you, and possibly that could be part of the problem. And to then think about, what could I do differently if I wasn't dieting, and using an idea more like intuitive eating, mindful eating will get people on that road of releasing from the diet. I think the other thing is looking at whether food has become the way you manage your feelings. Are you finding that you're overeating when you're stressed? Are you finding you're overeating? People tell me all the time, lonely, bored at nighttime. Lonely and bored at nighttime is overeating haven. Like, it's consistent, sitting in front of the television, eating this, that, or this, and saying, oh my God, I don't know where'd all the food go? Like, I didn't know. And so it's that mindless eating at nighttime, and it's because you're bored or you're lonely or both. And noticing that if you're doing that, there's other things you can do instead. There's other ways we can work on that. Last one I'll tell you, there's a lot of ways to know if there's a problem, is that if you're not knowing if you're hungry. How do I notice if I'm hungry? People will tell me, I said, so where are you at with your hunger? And they'll say, hunger? What's that? I'm never hungry. That they're just eating just because they think they should. Or they eat to their overfull. They don't know they don't know how to stop at feeling satisfied or feeling slightly full. And so it ends up being where you go to overfull and you feel horrible. If that's happening for you more than just on Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, it's like there's a problem. It's universally accepted that on Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, there's going to be overeating. Fine, whatever. It's the other 363 days a year I'm talking about, that if those are the days that it's bugging you, that there's something you can do. And actually, I'll tell you, like, if people go to my website, feedyoursoulunlimited.com, I have a freebie, which is a top tips to end emotional eating. I have a whole free program that I send out to people about how to notice when you're hungry and how to notice when you're full. It's, to me, the first starting spot to beginning to put food in its proper place as nourishment. Is we got to first get back in touch with our bodies to start understanding, when am I hungry and when am I full? And what I know is that people that I work with, I don't know when I'm hungry, and I either don't know when I'm full or I go to way over full, and I'm horribly uncomfortable. So those are a couple of things I think people can look for to start seeing if they fit into this category as an emotional eater.
True. And as you say, you're going to get out of being able to tell when you're hungry anyway, especially if you're constantly eating. You won't know when you're hungry.
That's absolutely true. And so if you're just eating just because it's time to eat or because there's food in front of you, there's really this kind of step back point to check inside with your body and say, so am I hungry or am I not? And how hungry am I? Because what can happen is that we can kind of dissociate from our physical feelings of hunger and get too hungry. And what happens is when we're too hungry, we tend to binge and overeat, because what doctors tell us is it takes about 20 minutes to figure out if you're full, to feel the food in your body. So if you're too hungry, you might be eating too fast or more than you think you need, and then you're getting to too full because you've allowed yourself to get too hungry. So there's this kind of, there's a sweet spot of being hungry but not too hungry, and that's the trigger to eat, and full but not too full, and that's the trigger to stop. And we've just lost track of that.
Right. And then there's a lot of people have learned that food is comfort food, which we all love and we call it. And that's a lot of where people learned how to eat emotionally from that whole comfort food thing. You fell down, you got a boo-boo, mom gave you something to eat instead of a hug, or, something bad happened to you at school or something bad happens to you at work. You just go out and you binge eat or whatever it is you're doing, and not realizing that, okay, bad stuff is going to happen. Nobody wants to fall down. Nobody wants to get in a car accident. Nobody wants to have somebody yelling at them at their job. But they use, instead you use food to combat that, which is a bad thing.
Yeah, we've been taught, and parents sometimes have a hard time, actually, if there's any parents out there with children, to really allow their child, I like what you said, to just allow your child to be upset or to cry or to be mad, and that we don't have to nurture them with food, but find other ways to nurture them with how they feel. And sometimes we don't know what to do, so we put food in its place, and to really pull back from that, because what happens is that our body and our brain says it lights up when we get this special food and goes, wow, that feels great. So there's a moment where you feel bad, you eat this food, it feels great. And then there's the next moment where it doesn't feel great, where you go, oh, darn, I don't like the way my body feels. oh darn, I'm afraid I'm going to lose weight. Oh darn, I'm too full. And what we're talking about is really put food in its place as nourishment. Comfort food's fine. That's okay. It's fine. Eat it. Hungry? Are you hungry? Is it a food that's going to satisfy you, give you the energy that you need to do, to do the things you need to do that day, and then stop when you're full? Fine. And so it's that checking in when you're eating it to know if it's really your right food for yourself is really important.
Also, check in to see if you can tell the difference between whether you're thirsty or whether you're hungry. That's another thing. People just automatically go, my mouth is telling me something here. I think I'd want to, and they'll automatically go for food. And it could just be that your mouth is saying, hey, I'm a little parched, I'm thirsty, which sometimes can mimic the same symptoms as being hungry. Because you've gotten off of that track to know the difference between the two.
You're absolutely correct. And what I found personally is that my gym had this thing about upping your water. And so we'd keep track of the water and have more water throughout the day. And what was interesting to me is that as I drank more water throughout the day, I found that I was less hungry. And it wasn't that it took hunger away. So it's not a diet method at all. I'm not saying that. But what was interesting to me is that I felt less hungry throughout the day. And I realized, oh my gosh, all the time I was thinking that I was hungry. It was really because I was thirsty. And so what I've done is I just add water. I have water sitting right here. And so I sip it all throughout the day. And you got it too? Right? I sip it all throughout the day. And you'll ask my husband, I always have a glass of water by me and in the car and at my office, because I sip on it all throughout the day, because I realize is that the more water I drink, the less hungry I feel, or the less emotionally hungry I feel, or the less thirsty hungry I feel. And then I can just respond to hunger, physical hunger, when it's time.
Yeah. If if you are saturated, they say if you keep the right amount of water, it keeps you flushed anyway, and it keeps you saturated, and then your body can actually get back on that track and learn, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. Oh yeah, that's what hunger feels like. Oh, that's real hunger. Plus, if you really in tune in your body, it'll tell you specifically what you need to eat.
Yes. That's interesting you say that, because often what people will tell me is when I talk with them about eating more intuitively and getting in touch with their body, they'll say, well, I'm afraid I'm going to overeat. I'm afraid I'm going to eat cookies all throughout the day. And I'm afraid I'll have cheesecake all the time. And that's just not true. Your body won't want it. It won't happen. I would challenge you to see it won't happen. You will crave. I crave salads. Like, I love them. I think they are delicious. They're my go-to. A lot of the times I crave my green smoothies. And also sometimes I crave a cookie. It just is. But it's not, what I notice is that if I'm craving sugar a lot, I have to check in and check in with myself and ask whether there's something emotional going on. And is that why I'm craving sugar so much? But our bodies don't naturally crave sugar. Look at a kid. My daughter will eat a cupcake. She'll eat part of a cupcake. She'll take the frosting off, eat part of a cupcake, and she will leave it there for the rest of the day. And she will never think about it again. Kids don't naturally eat sugar. I know some kids do, but I'm talking for the majority of children. It's just not what they do.
Yeah, and a lot of times, again, it's because what you're eating is out of balance. And like I actually woke up yesterday, I had taken a nap, and in my nap I was dreaming about, you need a salad. Oh yeah, and you need that Roquefort dressing. So I actually have I buy these little ready-made, different types of salads. And so I had a turkey and bacon Cobb, and and I actually have my little Roquefort dressing that came. So that's what I had, because that's what my body, when I was sleeping, was saying, oh yeah, when you get up, you need to go get that. Not because I knew it was there, but because you need to go get that. Okay, fine.
Right. And also what I love about what you're saying is you didn't say, oh, it's because I have to, or because it's good for me, or because it's healthy. You just said, it's just what I want. Yes, that's what we're talking about. It's just what your body will naturally crave these good food, the food that's good for you, that will give you the energy to do the things you need to do.
It's so true. And I've also noticed, like, I will go for a long time and not have red meat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this creates a problem because all of a sudden, I mean, as much as everybody would like to think, going after the, chicken and turkey and all of that, yeah, great, but it doesn't actually give you the same nutrients that eating beef will give you. So
Mm-hmm.
every so often, I discover I have these cravings, and what
Mm-hmm.
will happen is, in a sort of weird way, it's binging, but not all at one time. I will go and have In-N-Out burger or whatever, and just for about a week, and then all of a sudden I don't eat red meat anymore
Yeah.
because I'm replenishing what is missing, because my body tells me, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, we're not feeling your red blood count is low. Yeah, you need some red meat, woman, get on it. Because actually, I mean, as good as chicken it might be, it is not the same thing as eating red meat. But I don't eat red meat all the time.
I hear stories like that a lot. It's the same kind of thing, and it's really just listening to your body and noticing, what do I really need, and then do that. And we don't need to keep questioning it. We don't need to keep justifying it. It is what you need, as long as you're hungry and it gives you the energy to do the things you need to do. And when you're full, you'll stop. And you're going to end up, my experience, and once again, I'm not a doctor or a dietitian, but you're going to end up, in my experience, having a balanced diet. The way you eat is going to be balanced, because if you're really responding to what's going on inside, you're going to be doing that. You're going to be following more of a varied program with what you eat.
Right, and you'll also notice that you don't feel overtired. The very thing we're talking about, half the time you feel bad after you've eaten a lot, is because suddenly you were really, really tired, or you feel bad, or you can just tell the difference. If you're following what you're supposed to be eating, you don't have that. You still have your energy, you still go out through your day, you still have to put up with stressful tax season, which is why I'm stressed, because I do taxes. And which is coming up, by the way. Yeah. So, but it does happen if you pay attention. Like, my mother is terrified. Oh my God, you're going to become diabetic because look at you, you're eating Reese's peanut butter cups. Well, I eat Reese's peanut butter cups I binge eat those once every two years, for the simple reason, whatever is in them, that's when my body says, oh, you need to have some Reese's peanut butter cups. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's, oh, you need a Kit Kat. All right. And then I'll eat one or two of those and won't eat them again for a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
But every time mom, she's old school. Oh, but you're overeating. No, I'm not. I'm eating it because my body says I need to be eating this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, you don't even see me near Reese's or, chocolate. And I have friends who can't even stand chocolate.
Well, and I think sometimes there's this point where it just sounds good. Like, it just, like, it has, sometimes they have some old memories of like, wow, that, and then while you're eating it, does it taste good? Is it satisfying to you in the way that you need it to be satisfying it? Is it that you're doing it because there's emotions coming up? There's a lot of opportunity within that, but it's okay to eat things that are sweet. And I know some people don't want to, but then I think you have to look at whether you're restricting, and the problem is that once we start restricting, a la a diet, I can't have this, I can't have that. What I always say is, like, the more you say you can't, the more you're going to want it. The more you say, I can't have that, I can't have that, you're going to go for it, and you're going to have more than what you need, because you're saying you can't. With the people that I work with, we talk about, I could have it if I want to. Just right now, I choose not to.
Right.
I could have it. I just choose not to. It's a really powerful message when I just say, yeah, no, not right now. Maybe another time. And then what I don't have then is that reactive binging, because I'm not restricting. I'm allowing myself, I could do it. I just not right now.
Yeah.
And it's a really powerful message. Very powerful.
It is, and it's so true. And that's, I think, a lot what's also happening with all of a sudden these unique food allergies that are turning up in our society. Mm-hmm. Okay, 30 years ago, you might have run into one or two people that were allergic to peanuts. All of a sudden, now the greatest trend on the planet is, oh my God, my child's allergic to peanuts. Really? You actually took your kid to a nutritionalist. You'd be the first person in America that actually went through that much trouble, because most people don't. So how did you come up
It's
with that?
you know what, but it's interesting because I look at that, the whole, I mean, there are allergies and there are people that can get sick from foods, and I think we both acknowledge that that's really,
Yeah.
really true. There's also other people that are sensitive, or just it doesn't feel as good in their body at certain points in time, and so don't do that. And it's one of those, I just choose not to. It doesn't really react well in my body for inflammation, for bloating, for upset tummy, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Don't do that then. And if you are eating foods that make your body feel bad, that's the time to check back in and go, am I eating for emotional reasons? Because I work with people who will consciously eat food knowing that it's going to make their face break out, or make them bloat, or make their tummy upset, or give them rashes, or whatever it is, and they know, and that's a problem, because they're eating for a reason other than nourishment. That food serves a different purpose, and it's hurting them in the process. And that's when we got to check ourselves and go, I wonder what this is about. Let's kind of do something to correct this.
Yeah, I had a friend. She just came back from a trip in England, and she actually ate Indian food, and it doesn't agree with her, but she likes the way
Oh,
it tastes.
yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, but I don't, it was just comical. The whole story was funny because of how her body reacts to it. She chose to eat it, but she ate it before she was supposed to go to a big interview. So you just got to imagine the comedy going on
Oh,
there while she's eating this, and all sorts of little unique anomalies are going on during her interview.
yes.
And I'm just going, so you chose to make all those anomalies because you thought the food tasted good?
I would suspect she felt scared about the interview and was eating something and it's like, and I love that Dr. Phil thing. So how's that working for you?
Well, I definitely know how it was working for the folks who were around her. Yeah.
Right. It can be really uncomfortable, certain foods that we're sensitive to. And if you're eating them, knowing that you're going to have a reaction, I wonder why you're eating it. And maybe it could be for an emotional reason. And there are other things to do besides eat for emotional reasons. Like, we can do other things to take care of our emotions rather than eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if you're going to eat something for an emotional reason, I guarantee you I'm not going to eat something that's going to give me a bigger reason to be emotional afterwards.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But, people do things for very unique reasons. I do agree.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I like to talk about this, is because we have to eat at least 3 times a day. And there are lots of people that are suffering with the food choices that they make, and feel that it's out of control, and feel that their body's out of their control. And I'm here to say you can live your life differently and look at your body differently, look at food differently, uh, nurture yourself in different ways. And we don't have to be in physical, emotional pain anymore, that there's really something different you can do.
Right, right. So I'm curious, what is your recommendation for the lonely at night binge eater because they're bored or whatever?
What I talk with people about with that lonely bored at nighttime is we start talking about what's triggering it, like what is leading you to feel lonely and bored, and what is something different you can do. A lot of times with lonely bored, there are getting into action can often be one of the best things. And that's what I find with most people, is like, if that they're lonely and bored because they haven't thought of what else to do with their time. They come home from work, they feel stressed. Well, if you're feeling stressed about work, let's deal with the stress at work. And then you might not feel lonely bored at nighttime. Or if you're lonely bored at night because you don't have anything to do, well, then let's look at what you can do instead. And so we come up with a lot of activities and action items to do. And what can happen is, or what does happen is, that then you can become excited about these new things you want to do. I have a lot of people that I work with end up making the choice that they'll actually do something physically active. I have one person that I work with that does some exercise activities, and group exercise activities in the evening. I have another one that does gardening in the evening. When it's here in California and it's still light at nighttime, they'll come home and garden, or take their dogs for a walk. And these are all things that they have found to be beneficial. Another person talks about reading books. And so it's getting back to those things that nurture ourselves naturally rather than trying to use food to nurture ourselves.
Right, right. Yeah. Plus, I guess it also depends on when you suddenly discover that you're lonely at night, because if we're talking really late night, unless you live someplace where you're in one of the secured park areas, I doubt you're going to be taking the dog for a walk.
That's a good point. So then what we would do is take into account what's going on, and that's why it's very individual. So if somebody's saying, yeah, it ain't happening, it's not safe to walk outside, or it's dark, or that ain't going to happen, well, then we look at, well, then what could you do? What would be enjoyable for you? And generally people are pretty creative, and if they haven't had anything, I'll first ask, well, what did you used to do? And if they don't remember, I'll ask more questions. Well, what did you used to do when you were younger? What did you do when you were in your 20s? What did you do if you were in college? Or what did you do previously? And oftentimes as we explore it, they'll come up with things that they used to do for fun that they could reinstitute. Or if they can't remember anything, or there isn't enough things on their list, what's jazzing you? What have you always wanted to do? What's interesting to you? And let's add that in. And obviously it'd have to be in the realm of what could work out. You know, if it's 11 o'clock at night, well, if there's what could interest you at that time of night. Or sometimes truthfully, it's about, we got to go to bed and we're staying up too late. Our sleep cycle's out of alignment. And it's really looking at an individualized plan for what can help you when you're feeling lonely, bored at night, and what fits in for you personally.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Well, before we close out the show, I just want to ask, what were some of those creative things you used to come up with to do in the kitchen? You said you came up with creative little menu items.
Are you serious? You want to know?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. One of the things, it's kind of sad to say, but this is the first time I talked about it, so you're asking me a big one. One of the things I used to do is I used to cook a lot when my parents got a divorce. My mom was at work during the day. She had to work like 2 and 3 jobs just to keep food on the table and keep a house for us. And so I would cook a lot. And one of the things I used to do is I used to combine butter and sugar and put it on one of the saltine cracker. Salt, butter, sugar, saltine cracker. Oh my goodness. I used to do that. It was I think about it now and my tummy does a little churn right now. But it was really emotional eating, and there was look at all those comfort pieces in there.
Well, I've got to say, wow. Okay. I
told you it was kind of, it was
unique.
I don't know where I picked that one up on, but that I would do. That was it's kind of gross when I think about it, but it had the salt, it had the sugar, it had the butter, the creamy flavor. That's what I did.
That's a definite wow. Okay. You win. You win. I've heard some stuff, but wow. Butter.
Yeah.
Butter and sugar on a saltine.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely the title of a new book. Wow. Creative things that people eat. Yes.
No, people do a lot of things very creatively with food to kind of satisfy that emotional hunger.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering. I mean, that's a pretty specific thing, though. I'm like, wow, you hit all the comfort foods.
I did.
You managed to figure out a way to put them together.
I did. I actually, till I just said it out loud right now, I never thought of it that way, but that is true. That is true.
Okay.
It's quick and easy.
All right. Well, that's great. Okay. I thought you were going to say you did something like, I don't know, peanut butter and banana sandwich or something like that.
No, not me.
No, you just went right there to the gusto. Give me some salt, some sugar, and some butter. You got it covered.
That is true. That's true.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm never gonna forget that one. Okay.
I'm glad.
All right. So why don't you tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about how they can get in contact with you?
You can go to my website, feedyoursoulunlimited.com, and I have a contact Kim button where you can email me. And there's on my website, there's all kinds of stuff. There's access to the book there if you want to go. Also on my website, you'll also find a blog. I blog a lot. I like to write a lot about emotional eating and nurturing and taking care of yourself. And I have blogs about all those things, and also any holiday issues that come up, vacation issues. I have all kinds of things. So there's really an opportunity for people to get to know me, but also I like it to be as a resource to people where they can read some stuff and see how emotional eating might fit in for them, and see some tips and techniques and tools that they can have as takeaways. So it's feedyoursoulunlimited.com.
Okay, great. Any takeaways for our audience today?
Well, I think the biggest one is I would love to have them once again go to the website and go. There's a button on it that has top tips to end emotional eating. What we talked about earlier about the hungry and full, it's critical. Like, it's the starting spot to looking at emotional eating is to look at, when am I hungry and when am I full? I have these really incredible PDFs that you can get that walk you through how to look at whether you're hungry, how to look at your full, and then look at how to track it during the day to start noticing, when am I hungry, when am I full, what time of day is it, and what might the emotions be attached to when I'm eating. And it's a really great piece of information I think that everybody needs, most especially if you're emotional eater.
Okay. Well, thank you once again, Kim. This has been it's been fun and informative.
Thank you. I really appreciate, it's important information, and I really appreciate the platform to talk about it.
Absolutely. And we welcome you to come back again and join us with some more tips if you'd like. And
okay.
There you go. And everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition. And we will see you again next week with another exciting edition of the Iolande Argent Show.
Bye, Iolande. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.